Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Astley of jonathanastley.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, the 5 feminine signals men are programmed to respond to. Now, really quickly, if you're brand new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if anytime during this video the content resonates with you, please hit that like button so I can be seen in the YouTube algorithms. Really quickly, also, my coaching is what I call heart-centered radical honesty. It's direct, a little tough love, and a lot of heart. Occasionally, I use expletives to enhance a sentence. So if an F-bomb or two isn't your thing, I suggest logging off now. Really quickly, also, these are just merely my perceptions, my perspective. This is not necessarily the truth by any stretch of the means. So take it for what it's worth. If the content resonates with you, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. And one last thing, I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I sometimes mix up words from my brain to my mouth. So if it sounds like I'm a little dysfunctional at times, that's the reason why. All right, let's get into those 5 feminine signals men are programmed to respond to. Now, I want to share something with you. I actually saw this title from one of my contemporaries, and I watched the video, and I thought, wow, this was really good content. So I'm making it my own version, but this is really important information I wanted to share. So I'm really glad that I saw it, and I want to share it with you. So now you might be thinking, what are the feminine signals men respond to? And the first one might be just show them your boobs. Men would certainly respond to that, but I want to go a little bit deeper, and I want to differentiate between men who are emotionally mature and how they respond to things versus emotionally immature men and how they respond to things. And I want to say that I'm an equal opportunity throw people under the bus, whether it's men and women alike. I will tell you there is just as many dysfunctional men out in the dating realm, just as well as there is much dysfunctional women out in the dating, mating, and relating realm. So this isn't singular to men, okay? Now, I will say this, a lot of women who watch my channel probably get frustrated because you're thinking, why is it that we women are the ones who have to do all the work? Why is it that we have to study this? Why aren't men doing this studying? And I agree. I totally agree. Why aren't men doing this? Because women tend to be more fascinated with the why. Women tend to be more fascinated how to fix things when it comes to interpersonal relationships more so than men. In fact, women purchase the books on dating, mating, and relating far more than men, or certainly in the relationship realm, women purchase books probably 10 to 1 to the number of men. Now, ladies, I do want you to know this. Men do study relationships, but it's mostly in the area of how to have the confidence to ask a woman out. I'm going to repeat that. That's where most men spend their time, centered around the confidence of asking women out. And I can tell you, there is probably 1/3 of the male population, if not closer to 2/3 of the male population, that struggle with the confidence to actually just approach a woman and to say hi. And they struggle with the confidence of asking a woman out, or just even being engaged with a woman because of the fear of rejection. So ladies, I just want you to know that men suffer in this area as well, and where they study is mostly in the area of how to meet and how to approach women, not necessarily how to make a successful relationship. Women study that far more than men in this realm. I happen to be a little bit unique because I do this for a living, so I've studied relationships, intensely compared to the average guy. So I recognize I'm a little bit different than the average guy. And yet most men don't study this. Now, I know a lot of women say, well, I don't want to be with a man if he doesn't have the confidence to walk up into me and say hi. To me, that's a judgment. When we have to point the finger and say somebody is bad, somebody is wrong because of fear. And let me tell you something, when we judge a person as being bad or wrong because of fear, we're actually shaming them. And that's not a healthy way to approach things. So I'm about to share those 5 feminine signals men respond to. And I definitely, as I said before, I want to differentiate between emotionally mature men and emotionally immature men. And by the way, this is true for women as well. Because an immature person doesn't respond in the same way as a mature person. An immature person is very stifled in their ability to actually be in a relationship. So they're operating mostly from a place of fear. And the way they operate in a relationship is very myopic, very myopic. Okay, this is what myopic is, tunnel vision. And this is why a lot of men get labeled as narcissists, because they're actually very clueless and myopic to only focusing on their own needs. I'm going to repeat that. A significant percentage of men, as well as women, only focus on their own needs because they're not emotionally healthy enough to be in relationships. So I understand where many of you women have chosen men like that. It doesn't make these men bad. It just makes them bad daters. And what I want to encourage everyone from a place of love, because this is what love would do, and this is how love would respond, would actually look at men from a place of compassion and from a place of loving versus judgment and fear. And I can tell you a significant number of women are struggling in their relationship because they've actually become very bitter and jaded to the process of connecting with someone. And when you've had one bad experience after another bad experience, it's kind of makes sense. This is true for men as well. In fact, did you know the number one emotional health issue facing most everybody is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, and I'm not likable? This is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? What the heck is self-love anyway? By the way, there's a link below to get a copy of my book. By the way, under the Jonathan Recommends, all the books I'm going to talk about today are listed there, as well as how to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. All right, so emotionally mature men actually do respond well to women, and especially when they're doing these 5 things. So let's lean into that today. So I'm going to put on my trusty glasses. I'm going to say hi to my Instagram fans. Thank you so much. So number 1, the first one, is green lights. Green lights. We men need green lights, whether it's in person or in real life or in the internet realm where most people are meeting these days. In fact, significant percentage of people in midlife are meeting through an online connection. And men need encouragement. We need green lights. We need things to tell us that you're interested, that you like us, that you're engaged with us. And I can tell you, as a single man out in the dating realm, I'm actually fascinated how few women do the old dropping the hanky to get a guy's attention. And what's interesting is if you take something like the dating app Bumble, Bumble is a dating app where when 2 people swipe right and they connect with one another, women initiate the first contact. And I can tell you, as a man who's out there in the dating realm, one of the things that frustrates me the most is a woman who just simply says hi. And that's at least making initiative on their part. That's not very friendly version of creating connection with a guy to show that you're interested. This is why, if you follow my work, I've created an acronym called NICE, N-I-C-E. N-I-C-E. And if you're using a dating app, or if even in person, you can try this out to actually give a man some encouragement to want to pursue you. And the NICE stands for name, inquisitive, compliment, and enthusiasm. Name, inquisitive, compliment, enthusiasm. So you could simply say, hey, Jonathan, because my name's listed on a dating app, really great to connect with you. And actually, my profession is listed there. You could simply say something like, what inspired you to become a dating coach? Ask a question, be inquisitive, and then throw in a compliment like you're easy on the eyes. Men rarely get compliments in any given day. So throw out a compliment, and the E stands for energy, enthusiasm. Be energetic. So the next time you want to drop the hanky with a guy, say in the online world, try my acronym NICE. I've shared this before, and I'm going to share it frequently because this makes a big difference in connecting with men. And that's a great green light to give to a guy. Okay, number 2 is friendly energy. Friendly energy. As I said a moment ago, I'm noticing a significant amount of people, women in particular, that are very bitter and jaded. Most likely, they've gone through terrible divorce. Most likely they've had 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 poor experiences with men. And as I said before, the number one emotional health issue facing everybody is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not likable. And take that into the dating realm, and that magnifies that on so many levels. If whether you're a man or woman getting rejected or having bad experience one after another. And so what happens, their energy, and I've seen this frequently, many women's energy isn't friendly and inviting. It's very closed off and blocked. I can't tell you how many first dates I've gone on over the years with women who literally, you could be sitting across from them at a table, having a drink, and you could see every man that's ever hurt her standing right behind her. I mean, literally, I mean, from an energetic level. So I invite you to approach a first date or a first communication with beginner's mind. Throw out the past. The past is prologue. You can't change the past. All you can do is focus on the present and prepare yourself to be more engaged in the future. And so my invitation for you is to operate from a place of beginner's mind, beginner's mind. A great book to prepare you for that would be If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated. I love this book. I love this book. By the way, there's a link below and Jonathan recommends. Again, this is a great book to shift the energy from this old paradigm, the paradigm of like the book, The Rules, and so much other dating advice out there that's really setting you up for manipulative type of experiences and unhealthy experiences. And I want you all to lean into a much healthier way to approach dating, mating, or relating, because that's what love would do, and that's how love would respond. By the way, I have a podcast called The What Would Love Do and What Would Love, What Would Love Do is links below. Okay, number 3, by the way, I got something in my tooth. Number 3 is physical touch. Physical touch. We men respond to physical touch. In fact, I just did a video on this about different types of 5 ways men like to be touched. And there's no greater way from a female perspective. And I know it says feminine. And by the way, I didn't say feminine energy, because many of you who follow my work know how I feel about masculine and feminine energy. And I'll probably go on a rant at some point during this live stream. But female touch, there's something so magical about a woman that touches us. And I shared this before. I shared this in that previous video about how I was on a first date and a woman was just lightly touching my arm while we were talking. And I don't think she was even aware she was doing it. We were having a really good time, having a cocktail. It was very friendly. There was some familiarity between us, so I wasn't a total stranger. But I responded so well, and I realized that while my primary love language is words of affirmation, which is actually for us Leos, it's words of adoration. I'm just kidding, but I realized after that date that physical touch was actually my second love language and not quality time. I used to always think it was quality time, but now I realize that being touched, having someone run their fingers through my hair, patting me on the butt, giving me a little slap of fun. We men respond to that. Emotionally healthy men. Let me repeat that. Somebody who's had trauma in their life might not react well to physical touch, which makes it difficult for them to lean into a romantic relationship with someone if they're not capable of actually being able to be held and touched. And a hug is a great way to connect with a human being. And I'm not talking about a 1 second, 2 second hug. I'm talking about a 5, 7, 10 second hug to really connect and bond with another human being. You know, most Americans are so afraid to touch one another, you know? I mean, you go to Europe and other places, they're very huggy-feely with one another. I've gone to countries where men walk down the streets who are friends and they're heterosexuals, and they're literally got arm to arm with one another as they walk down the street. We are a very uptight culture here in the United States. I mean, not to say that there aren't other cultures that are not stuck up, but we're quite stuck up here. And I'll tell you, in other parts of the world, they are way more friendly to physical touch, and especially the importance of hugs. Those who know me know every time I end my podcast, I give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug, because touch is so important. It's so needed. Intimacy, into me you see, which includes physical connection with one another. And that's so important. So if you want to get a guy's attention, because we're programmed to it, physical touch. Okay, number 4. I shared this before in the green light, but being inquisitive, being curious and asking for men's advice. Being curious, being inquisitive, ask questions like, what inspired you to become a dating coach? And then when I share something, well, what inspired you for that? Or what took you in that direction? Be inquisitive. Do something that I learned in sales called drilling down, drilling down. So you take something and then you drill it down to learn more. And when you do this, you're actually, connecting with us on both a cerebral level and on an emotional level with us, when you come from a place of curiosity, and especially, or being inquisitive, and especially asking men for advice. I want to tell you the story. This happened about 5 years ago. It was right after my significant relationship ended for the first time. I was in a 6-year on and off relationship. Just goes to show you, even a dating coach or a relationship coach isn't immune to the realities of life. Okay. And yet, thankfully, we had a beautiful conscious uncoupling. So the first time we ended our relationship, I met a woman through a dating app. And on our first date was cocktail and drinks. Second date, I went to her home to pick her up. And as I was at her home, she walked me around her place, showing me her place. And she was actually in the process of remodeling her kitchen. And she said to me, hey, Jonathan, I've got some tiles out here. Can I get your opinion on which tiles do you think would be best for my kitchen? And I thought to myself in that moment, I thought, wow, that really touched me that here we still didn't know each other very well. And she was asking for my advice. And I got to tell you, I perked up. I was like, and I wanted to do my best, well, should it be this one or this one? And whether she took my advice or not, and by the way, we're still social friends, meaning social media friends. It didn't go anywhere after the second date. But I really appreciated that she wanted my opinion. She wanted my advice. She was curious, comes from a place of curiosity, inquisitiveness. And I will tell you, emotionally healthy men respond to that. Only emotionally unhealthy men get offended when you ask a man his opinion or his advice or anything curious about his life. People who are emotionally stunted reject all that. But if people that are ready for a deep, intimate, interpersonal relationship are definitely up for it. And lastly, number 5, I call this NRR, no response required, no response required. Now, I want to give you some backstory to this because that significant relationship I talked to you about or shared a moment ago, when we used to send text messages to one another, sometimes we'd say a good morning text, sometimes we'd send an email. Sometimes there would be something that had a fair amount of depth to it that required a response, or not that it required a response, but it put the other person in an obligation to respond. So what we did, we had a little secret code. When we communicated with one another, and sometimes it was just merely giving each other some love, we'd write on the bottom of the text or the email, NRR, no response required. What that means is, and what I'm really demonstrating here is the importance of being able to send love to your partner without the expectation of getting something in return. And by putting NRR, it basically said, I'm sending you love. I don't expect anything in return. I'm not outcome driven. And if you get to it, great. And if you don't, that's fine too. I will tell you, ladies, men respond to no pressure. We respond to no pressure. So when you use a couple of these techniques that I've taught you right now, like an NRR, by simply saying, hey, look, I'm sending you some love. I mean, you don't say it that way, but you initiated some love, and you respond back by saying, hey, you don't have to respond. I'm okay. And we actually respond. We're more apt to respond when we know that there's no pressure. When you take the pressure off, not that you put pressure there, but it feels like pressure when somebody says something and initiates a conversation, and the expectation is to respond fairly quickly. And this is why stupid game playing has occurred, okay? Because sometimes a person can't get to a text message right away. So then the other person says, well, they didn't respond right away, so I have to play a game and I'm not going to respond right away. And this is some of the bullshit that's happening in the dating, mating, and relating realm, because we should take the pressure off of the expectation and just allow love to just be love. So those are the 5 feminine signals that are programmed to get, to entice a guy. What is it again? That are programmed to, men are programmed to respond to. By the way, those are my trusty notes. We're going to get started in the Q&A in just a second. Before I do, so really quickly, now we've wrapped up the content portion. Now we're going to go to Q&A. So if you're not familiar with my Q&A process, if you're on the live stream right now, this is strictly for the YouTube live people. If you're on live now, in the chat box, you can write the word question and post your question. Write the word question, post your question. If it's a personal question, write personal question and then post your question. And if you'd like to purchase a super sticker or super chat and post your question there, all the monies collected from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund I've created in the name of my son, Connor. Connor's my son right there. Most of you know he passed away a few years ago. So in his honor, this scholarship fund is to defray the cost of personal development. So if you purchase a super sticker, super chat, that's where the funds go to defray the cost of personal development to those folks in need. All right, let's jump into the Q&A right now. So, and again, I want to say hi to those on Instagram. So let's see what we have here. If you have a question, post the word question. Let's keep swimming. Let's keep swimming. I'm totally into that Nemo thing. BE writes, name, inquisitive, compliment, and enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. That's what N.I.C.E stands for. Name, inquisitive, compliment, and enthusiasm. Empty nesting says, or they work with men all day long. Jaded. Yes, I am, but also married. Jaded's not a great energy to be in, folks. That's not a very loving energy to be. I understand you work with men all day long and you're married, but being jaded and bitter about human beings is not a loving place to come from. That's not what love would do, and that's not how love would respond. So, all right. Julia says, good idea. Always compliment your man. Exactly. All right. Jenny says, I'm on Bumble and I always say their name, compliment, and ask a question. Some write back and some don't use my name and ask about me. What the fuck? By the way, again, emotionally mature people, emotionally grown-up people respond different than those who are emotionally stunted. So it's not uncommon. And sometimes when we're responding, it's just rushed. But I really believe if people were more intentional, men and women alike were more intentional in the dating process, they would start seeing better results. Sadly, most people aren't intentional. They're very cavalier. They're very ambivalent in the process. And yet they act like, oh, but I so want a relationship, but their actions don't say otherwise. This is why one of the fundamentals of emotional maturity is your action match your words. So especially for you women out there that think you're so emotionally mature and so engaged in the process, I can tell you, I witness women constantly whose actions don't match their words because they're ambivalent, they lack intentionality, and they're rather cavalier in the process. And let me just tell you something, folks. We've got to strike because there's no time like the present, because in this dating realm right now, there's another swipe, another swipe, another swipe. This is why if people would just take the time to get to know one person at a time instead of this multiple dating people are doing. I mean, I want you to think about it. If a man is dating 4 women at once and a woman's dating 4 men at once, when are they ever going to connect to get to know one another? I'm not a big proponent of multiple dating. I'm a big, multiple meeting is okay, but dating, in my opinion, should be reserved one person at a time. I'm going to repeat that. Dating should, when you decide to date someone more than 3 dates, it should be reserved for one person at a time, so it doesn't fuck up your mental, your detective in you. Let me just call it the detective in you, the person that's doing the research. Because if you got multiple people, and I know women are supposed to be multitaskers, but that's not necessarily true when it comes to interpersonal relationships. So I'm a big proponent, get to know one person at a time. This is why I believe that you should have 3 dates in roughly a 3-week period. And within the first 90 days, you should have accumulated 100 hours of face-to-face time. Let me repeat that, 100 hours of face-to-face time. It takes about 100 hours to get to know another human being. So if you're dating 4 people at once, how are you ever going to get to 100 hours to get to know someone at level 1? Let alone a deeper level beyond that. So that's just my invitation, Julia. I know you didn't say that, but I went off, or Jenny, I went off on a tangent. All right, if you have a question, post the word question or purchase a super sticker or super chat. Laura says, my love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. Way to go. We would get along great. Catherine says, I need a real hug. I like a real hug. Me too. Okay, let's see what questions we have. I'm scrolling. Write the word question and then post your question thereafter. Robin says, there's nothing wrong with asking for advice like that. Shows that you appreciate your opinion. Yes, men want, we're dying to show our opinion. So I highly encourage you to do that. Okay. We got Catherine who just purchased a super sticker. So thank you so much. Catherine says, question, what's your take on men who have never been married? I see a lot on the dating sites, but I'm hesitant to contact them. Not sure they would really be a good relationship material. Great question. What do you think about men who have never been married? Okay, I guess the question I have for you, Catherine, what do you think about women who've never been married? What does that say about them? We can judge human beings. We can judge human beings as having some sort of defect. I know a lot of men look at women who have never been married and go, what's wrong with them? And a man who's never been married, what's wrong with him? I will tell you, one of my dear friends at age 45 got married for the first time and had children at age 47. So I'm here to say it's not out of the realm of possibility. And quite frankly, think about it. What does it say about, by the way, 75% of the single population over 45 years old is divorced. What does it say about them? What does it say that they can't keep a relationship? So, or didn't choose well. So I'm here to say we can judge that as being something wrong with them, or we can go, maybe they were smart and dodged bullets. Okay, a woman or a man have dodged bullets. Ultimately, you have to find out, what is it that they're looking for? What does commitment mean to them if they're seeking a okay, now we're going to go down another rabbit hole, because this is what Jonathan does. Folks, most people over 45 years old are simply seeking a relationship. And a relationship most of the time is monogamy and exclusivity without any direction of where this relationship is going. In fact, Esther Perel talks about this in her book, Mating in Captivity, or not in the book, but she talks about this in Mating in Captivity. Esther Perel, Mating in Captivity. She has something she calls stable ambiguity. Stable ambiguity. And what that means is the stable part is that the relationship is monogamous and exclusive, and the ambiguity is there's no direction for this relationship. So I'm here to say that the vast majority of humans over 45 years old who divorce have no direction anyway. So it doesn't make any difference whether they were never married or divorced. And quite frankly, people divorce, I'm going to jokingly say they're failures. They couldn't keep a marriage. They couldn't sustain a marriage. So it doesn't necessarily make them any better at the process. And when you think about it, second and third marriages divorce at a higher rate than first marriages. So again, you can't put a correlation other than, and this is what my invitation for you, Catherine, is to ask better questions. Ask better questions in the early phases. By the way, folks, my coaching practice is all centered about how to pre-qualify your prospect. In other words, how to ask better questions based on your personality and your compatibility needs. I help you craft the right questions to ask a man while you're dating, how to vet for his emotional maturity, and how to lean into a greater sense of compassion and love in the dating process. And if you need some support, if you're looking to actually shift your experiences, if you're single and looking for love right now and you're looking to shift your experience, then check out a link below to a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Catherine, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate the $20 super sticker as well. You're a sweetheart. Thank you. All right. Let's go swimming. Let's go swimming. Okay, Beth writes in. Question. What does it mean if someone says you're incredible and adores you, but acts like you don't exist? Why say when not meaning it? Okay, so that's a great question. So Beth, I guess my real question is this somebody who's in your life on a regular basis, or is this someone you went out on a date with once? Okay, is this someone you're dating, or is this someone in your life? Because we can have male and female acquaintances that say all kinds of things, and yet their actions don't match their words. And usually when men do that, they're fishing. They're fishing. They're fishing. They just want to see if they can hook you. Okay, so they throw out some compliments or some terms of endearment, but they're not necessarily, they're looking to see what kind of reaction they can get from you. That's one possible reason why that happens. So, but the real question is this somebody who's regularly in your life, or somebody, it's because I highly doubt this is someone you're dating, because why would you date someone whose actions don't match their words? So so Beth, that's my quick analysis of what you just shared. But thank you for that question. That was a great question. I really appreciate it. By the way, folks, please hit that like button right now. If you're watching live, please, log in, log off, go in and hit that like button so we can see, so that this can be seen more in the YouTube algorithms. All right, let's see what we have here. Debbie says, I don't believe in multiple dating either. How can you get to know someone if you're doing that? I agree, folks. It takes 100 hours to get to know a human being. Now, listen, the first meeting, we can have multiple first meetings and we can have multiple first dates with people. When you get to the third date phase, that's the point where someone has asked you 3 times in less than a 3-week period. If you've physically seen someone 3 times in a less than a 3-week period, then I would encourage you to invest in that one person. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Jonathan, I'm in a long distance relationship and I can't see someone that often. Folks, long distance relationships, by the way, local relationships are challenging enough as it is. Add distance to that, then all you're doing is spending time on the telephone. And let me tell you something, folks, especially about men. We don't bond through the telephone. We do not bond through the telephone. We can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but we don't bond with you through the telephone. So you've spent hours upon hours talking. He hasn't bonded with you. We bond through physicality, both physical in a sexual realm, but also doing stuff with somebody. Hobbies, mutual interests, social activities, spending time with family and friends, traveling together. That's how we bond with a person. And quite frankly, we need 100 hours of face-to-face time just to get to level 1 of bonding. Now let me rephrase that. Let me backtrack. We bond through lust very quickly, but we don't even bond through lust. We chase and hunt lust or physicality. But then ultimately, to be in a relationship, we actually have to bond with you through experiences. We don't bond through the telephone. So that's why long distance relationships rarely work. And what's great about long distance relationship is you can have by the way, this is where you can date 4 people at once. By the way, I got to tell you, I've done it before when I was in my immature phase after my divorce. I was having multiple long distance relationships because it was a great way to spend time with someone, have sex without any responsibility. I'm laughing because that's what I realized. Unless you have a plan to be in the same place, it's going to be very challenging. So that's my thoughts on that. And I was just doing a ramble. So, okay. Question, C Flower, question. Do you think on and off relationships ever turn out well? Do you think on and off relationships ever turn out well? Depends on your definition of well. Folks, you can have the most traumatic relationship in your life. It can actually be your greatest blessing. I'm going to repeat that. You can have the most traumatic relationship in your life, and it can be your greatest blessing. By the way, isn't that called family? We oftentimes have the most traumatic experiences with our family, and yet they're also our greatest blessing. So I'm here to encourage you to look at relationships from a more open mind. And even a bad experience is an opportunity to love on yourself. I can't tell you how many women I talk to I don't talk to them incessantly, but I talk to women who incessantly complain about men in their relationships. Men who are narcissistic, men who are users, men who are takers, men who are, have trust issues, all this kind of stuff. And the focus is all on the man. And it's basically men are bad, which is just going to create more negativity in our lives, So a bad relationship is actually an opportunity to look inward and say, what can I learn about myself? What was good about the relationship? And what can I learn about myself? Because that's what love would do. And that's what self-love would do. Again, a copy of my book listed below, selflovethebook.com. But I want to encourage everyone right now. Can you make a commitment right now? Would you write the word commitment in the chat box, saying, I make a commitment to look at any bad past relationship with the eyes of love and with gratitude and say, what gift did I get from this experience? What gift did I get from this experience? Would anybody here be willing to make that commitment? I made that commitment years ago to myself, and I encourage every one of you to do the same, because when we can look from the eyes of love, we can actually have a greater experience. It's interesting. Today I spoke to two female friends. As a coach, you have to hire me to get my advice, and I do have female friends, and two of them reached out, actually wanted my advice on some stuff, and all they did was complain about the guys. And when we had our conversation, I put the mirror back on them, and in both cases, they were able to see how their experience, when looking at it through the eyes of love for themselves first and then for the other person, they shifted from a place of negativity to a place of being more at a state of inner peace. And isn't that really what you want, is a space of inner peace? I hope so. Anyway, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go swimming. Gina says, hey, Jonathan, question. A man has trouble receiving a compliment. How do I boost his self-esteem and make him more comfortable? A man has trouble receiving a compliment. How do I boost his self-esteem and make him more comfortable? Gina, great question. And the answer is you cannot do anything to boost his self-esteem. That's his job to do the inner work. And most likely, someone who has trouble receiving a compliment most likely had childhood wounds and traumas in their life that created negative patterns, limiting the beliefs and an inability to actually receive love. So I want to talk about 3 books right now that if you want to invite him to read, I highly recommend. Now, the first book is Ninja Level Study Level. This is a 50-hour deep dive. It's called the Hoffman Process, This is a deep dive into healing childhood wounds and traumas. This is going to require a minimum of 50 hours of work, not just reading, but doing the work. And most people won't do the work. They won't do the work. Now, you can get the Cliff Note version by doing a little bit of homework and studying a little bit through YouTube about the Hoffman process. But I invite you to either invite him to go to it in person or read the book. The next 2 books, because most likely he has an avoidant personality, I highly suggest reading the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. Okay, I highly recommend reading this book. Most likely he's avoidant, which makes it difficult for him to receive love, to receive that compliment. And also reading the book Getting the Love You Want by Harvell Hendrix and Helen Hunt. This is about learning what's known as the imago, how we choose people in our lives that are very similar to one or both of our parents. We oftentimes choose people that are similar in personality and nature as one of our parents because we want to heal a wound with our parent. So going back to your original question, you can't you can't improve his self-esteem. Only he can improve his self-esteem. And he's going to have to want to do the work. Otherwise, you're going to have a person that's incapable of receiving love. And by the way, who wants to be in a relationship with someone who's incapable of receiving love? Unless you're looking for a traditional relationship where it's a one up, one down, the man pays the bills, the woman's the subservient person. That's the way it's been throughout society. I'm hoping to shift that narrative because I am not a big proponent of the one up, one down. The man is the financial leader and the woman is the servant in the relationship. I'm a big proponent of relationships being like a two-lane street. A two-lane street. You're traveling at the street to a street that has two lanes, and you're traveling at the same speed together of mutual effort, of mutual giving and receiving. This is why I'm not a big proponent of the whole masculine and feminine energy. And a woman, all she has to do to those 5 feminine signals to program a guy is just sit in your feminine energy and lean back, and he's just going to magically gravitate towards you. And he's going to claim you. And he's going to be chivalrous because all you're doing is sitting in your feminine. Folks, sitting in your feminine energy simply means you're just waiting to receive. You're literally a doormat at that level when you're waiting to receive. I'm here to suggest throw out the bullshit narrative about masculine and feminine energy and be an empowered woman or an empowered man. Be an empowered woman or an empowered man. When you are empowered with your self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, your sovereignty, which is all wrapped up into self-love, you are going to become a magnetic attractor. So two people connect like this, because feminine energy is like this, waiting for this to show up. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but that's literally the narrative. You just sit back and wait to receive the penis. That's what feminine energy is. You're waiting to receive. Stop waiting to receive and be a giver with a person who's also a giver. Be a giver with a person who's also a giver. And you're not with a giver, then maybe they're not the right person for you. Because two givers can create a much better relationship than one who's expected to give and the other's just expected to receive. And that's my rant. Take it for what it's worth. All right. I hope you're finding value. Carrie writes, question, I feel I finally found the love of my life. We are 8 months into a relationship. I'm worried I might accidentally screw it up. Do you ever help someone like me? Yeah, it's simple, Carrie. Stop it. Stop with the mindset. So I'm going to recommend, you don't need to hire me for that one. I'm going to recommend everybody read this book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Chapter 1. Hold on. Chapter 1. The voice inside your head. The voice inside your head. The voice inside your head. Carrie, it's time to start working on the voice inside your head. And that's only something you can do for yourself. So read these books, watch these videos, and start shifting the narrative insight. By the way, in my book, where is it? Well, one of the chapters says, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So just remember, if it's coming from the heart, you can't screw it up. If it's coming from fear, you can totally fuck up a relationship. So focus on your fear. Focus on your fear and start loving on yourself. And you might want to read this book. This is a great book by Brené Brown. The Gifts of Imperfection. The Gifts of Imperfection, Carrie. I highly recommend reading this book. Invest in yourself. 30 minutes a day, everybody. Work on improving yourself so you don't have to focus on doing something wrong, because guess what? There is no such thing as doing something wrong. You can only screw something up when you're in fear, but that also means you're not ready for a relationship as if you're constantly in fear. And what I mean is you're not ready for a relationship. You may not be a good partner for somebody if you're in constant fear, have trust issues. The gamut runs from there. So thank you so much for that question, Carrie. I really appreciate it. Joy writes, what can women do? What can a woman do so she doesn't come across as intimidating on a date? What can she do? First off, a man's penis never shrunk because a woman was a little demonstrative. I'm going to repeat that. A man's penis never shrunk if a woman was a little demonstrative. I am so sick and tired of this rhetoric that you're actually intimidating men. Now, it's not intimidation. It's, are you turning us off? That's really what's happening. Do you have controlling behavior? Are you critical? Do you show up with contempt? That's the stuff that turns men off. It doesn't intimidate us. Controlling behavior, being, when you're coming at a place of telling a man what to do. That's by the way, everybody Google The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by John Gottman. So remember I mentioned this book frequently. The book is called 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. Google The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse and then plus John Gottman. Those are criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and defensiveness. That's the 4 things that are the killers of a relationship. So if you're acting in that capacity, you're most likely, you're not intimidating the guy, you're turning it off. So how do you shift the narrative? Let's go back to the 5 feminine signals. Number 1, give green lights, throw in those compliments. Number 2, friendly energy. Number 3, physical touch. Number 4, be curious, inquisitive. And 5, no agenda. That's how you shift the narrative, because you can't intimidate a guy, because no penis fell off on a first date unless you're just being, kind of an ornery person. And then we just don't want to be with you. That's usually the result of that. All right, let's keep going here. Lead says, stellar points, Jonathan. Thank you. Beth says, if someone supposedly calls you a friend ghost, how do you act towards them in person amongst friends? So if he's just, well, by the way, if you're friends, there's no such thing as ghosting. Okay. I mean, unless someone isn't returning your phone call, that's not ghosting. I mean, I sometimes go months without speaking to a friend. That's not ghosting them. Okay. If it's a romantic relationship, somebody could disappear, but friends kind of come in and out of our lives all the time. So I don't consider that ghosting if it's a friend. If it's a romantic relationship and they stop talking to you and they don't respond to your messages, that's ghosting. But what you described isn't ghosting to me. Jenny writes, I'm mid-40s, never married. I dodged many bullets, and I know I would have been divorced if I married earlier. I want to get married and have a child. So see, folks, do we judge people that have never been married? It's actually dodging bullets. Not that I regret getting married, but it didn't work out. All right, let's scroll up here. We got lots. Believe, folks, it's a lot for me to scroll through. All right. Kathy says she's committed. Yay. Catherine says, I'm committed. I look at the gift. Exactly. All right. Let's see. By the way, if you want to ask me a personal question, write the word personal question, then post a question if you have something personal with me. And again, purchase a super sticker, super chat as well. Jenny says, amen to Joan. Oh, she wrote, love makes the world go around. Yes. What did John Lennon say? All we need is love. All right. Let's go swimming. Let's go swimming. If you have a question, post the word question. Oh, here we go. Up. Boo. Baker writes, question. I met this guy that's going through some personal issues. We spoke constantly. Out of the blue, he stopped speaking to me. Why? And what should I do? Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, this is a man that you've had nothing but communication with. You've not had a physical date with him. And he had personal issues, and out of the blue, he stops communicating with you. That's a very common thing. When a man or woman's life, when the ground beneath them is very shaky, it's difficult to engage in an interpersonal relationship with someone when you're going through a lot of personal issues. So my invitation of what you should do, is send him energetic love. Send him energetic love. I mean, the guy, you weren't dating him. He wasn't your boyfriend. You guys had no commitment to one another. You're simply somebody you're talking to on a regular basis. This is the problem with talk, and no face-to-face, 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 face-to, or face-to-face, face-to-face, face-to-face. Stop talking on the phone and start getting out and meeting people. And I know it's hard when there's distance, but why are many of you engaging in distance relationships that are never going to go anywhere? Unless you have a plan, they're not going to work out. So my invitation for you, send him energetic love because he's going through a hard time. All right. Catherine Cornelius, I see you purchased a super sticker. Thank you so much. Thank you for the $49.99. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for sharing your real, practical, heart-centered, helpful advice. You are the best relationship coach I've ever listened to. You win the gold medal. Woohoo! After the Olympics, I won the gold. Yay! Kathy, thank you so much. That just made my day. You really just made my day. That's a feminine signal that I was programmed to respond to. Thank you so much. All right, Sadie, personal question. Jonathan, how did you know you were in love? How did you know you were in love? How did you know you were in love? Well, if I'm candid about this question, in my marriage, I don't think I was in love. I think I was following programming. Don't get me wrong, I cared for my wife, and in the beginning, I believed it was love, but what was happening, I was following the programming I was raised with. I was raised with, after high school, go to college. After college, get a job. After getting a job, meet a girl. After meeting a girl, get married. After getting married, buy a house, and then start a family. That was my programming. That was my blueprint. So I was more focused on getting a wife than actually being in love. And while we had some good aspects in our relationship, I don't think we were ever fully in love with us. My wife openly admitted that she wasn't really all that, attracted to me after we went through a divorce. So, going back to the never married question that came earlier, I'm going to say that, I'm not to say that I married the wrong person, because I'm grateful for the 2 children I had from our marriage. And certainly we treat each other as family to one another now. I don't think I was really in love with her. I'm not saying I didn't care for her deeply. And then my most significant relationship after my marriage, I'm going to tell you, I chose a partner from a place of neediness, from an anxious attachment style, and somebody that was reminiscent of my mother in some ways. Not physically looking, by the way, because my ex-girlfriend's drop dead gorgeous. But I don't think I was in love there either. I don't know if I've ever experienced healthy love. I've experienced unhealthy attachment, and I've experienced the imago, which is choosing people like one of our parents, but I don't think I've ever really truly been in love. One of my favorite lines in the TV show Sex and the City is when Mr. Big is asked, have you ever been in love? And he says, abso-fucking-lutely. And yet, maybe I haven't really been in love. And so I'm holding out for something epic. I mean, listen, to me, it's either a hell yes or it's a fuck no. And I'm looking for a hell yes kind of relationship. I'm not looking for someone just to have a companion in my life. I'm looking for something much deeper. And this is why I actually learned, you know what? I have been in love. I just realized it. I am learning to love myself. I am learning to love myself. I am finally in love with Jonathan. So, Sadie, thank you so much, because I did realize I have been in love, and it's finally, I'm loving myself. Can anyone relate to that? If you can, give me a thumbs up. If you can, say an amen. All right, we're going to take 1 or 2 more questions. Thank you so much again, Sadie. Leah says, I love that question. Thank you. Catherine writes, what's your favorite activity to do on your free time? What's my favorite activity? It's hiking. It's spending time with friends. It's doing psilocybin journeys. It's if you're not familiar with psilocybin, look it up. I'm a psychonaut. I like to do spiritual journeys. I like to spend time with family and friends. Those are the things that enrich my soul. I love personal development. I love going to workshops. I love solving the problems of my own anxiety. I love solving the problems of my own fears. Those are things I love to do. Is when I come up against a fear or an anxiety, can I tackle it and overcome it? Those are the things that turn me on. Triggers in my life are a good thing because it means I get to work on something. So I'm a little bit unusual that way. So anyway, I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for that question. Carrie just posted. Thank you for the, oops. Carrie just posted. Thank you for the super sticker. By the way, thank you all for the super stickers. I really appreciate it. She says, thank you for your advice. I will order the book about imperfections. My love and I have read many books you recommended together. 8 months, Going Strong, epic, even folks, this is an example. Carrie is an example of what I'm saying over and over again. Ladies, before the penis either goes inside the vagina or you have regular sex with a guy, this should be the book you're reading together. This should be the book you're reading together to determine if you're a good fit with one another. Because what's the point investing time if it's not going to go the distance? Many of you are investing in relationships that are just casual. It's stable ambiguity, meaning it's monogamous and exclusive, but it has no direction. And I'm here to invite you to shift the narrative. Are you willing to do that? I hope so. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. All right. Sherry says, great topic. You need to love yourself. When you love yourself, love will come into your life. I never loved myself before this experience. So Sherry, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Joan says, I'm learning to love myself. Thank you. Hugs to you, Jonathan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sable says, I've always highly doubted men fall in love. They just marry or enter into relationships out of convenience and just confirmed it. It wasn't out of convenience, though. I want to shift that terminology. It was out of the expectation. I was programmed because all my friends, all my male friends, one after another got engaged. It was just the programming we were following. It wasn't convenience. It was programming. All right. Kimberly says, Jonathan, first off, same programming here in my life. Anywho, you know how online is the BS of text. How long before cutting ties if they want to wait to meet? Thanks. Kimberly, great question. I have a rule of thumb. It's 3, 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1, 3. No more than 3 text message exchanges should lead to setting up a phone call. No more than 2 phone calls should set you up for 1 date. And all of this should happen in a 3-week period of time. This way you don't waste time with the wrong people. Now, it's not to say that you can't have a text messaging conversation with somebody. I'm talking about initiating 3 text message conversations should at some point lead to a telephone call. That telephone call or 2 should lead to a date. And that should all happen within about no more than 3 weeks period of time. Because listen, get busy living or get busy dying. The sooner you cut to the chase, the sooner you have a chance to determine if they're right for you. All right, this is going to be our last question of the day. Question, wouldn't you say that being in love has a romantic connection though? In other words, there is an erotic desire. So, you know, I'm responding to how I responded to the question, have I ever been in love? And I've certainly loved people in my life, but being in love is something I think comes from a healthy place. So first I had to become in love with myself from a healthy place so I can be in love with somebody else. Now, yes, I do agree erotic connection is highly important for the successful relationship. Going back to Esther Perel, she talks about erotic connection is the downfall of most marriages. So yes, this is why I intend when I'm in a relationship to practice the 4 A's, the 4 A's. That's attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Let me repeat that. Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance on a daily basis. That's the daily multivitamin my relationship is going to require for it to work. And I need to be with a partner who's on board with giving ourselves an injection of attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance on a daily basis. So that's my take on that one. So I first had to become in love with myself to be able to erotically be in love with someone else. Trendsetter, thank you so much for that question. You know what, folks? Jenny asks, are a lot of your friends divorced? Sadly, out of my wedding party, out of 5 guys, 4 of them are divorced. So that's just, I'm giving you an example. A lot of my friends, I do have a lot of friends who are married, have subsequently are in relationship after their divorces. But yeah, that's 4 out of 5 guys. So when they say 50% divorce rate, and they say that number is going down, I actually think that number is just going up. And I don't care what they say statistically, I believe that number just keeps going up. Sad, because people don't know how to choose one another. So if you need help choosing a partner, schedule a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Purchase my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Check out all my recommended books and get my free gift that's listed below as well under gift. 5 how a man chooses a soulmate. 5 ways a man chooses a soulmate. All right, folks, I think this would be a great place to wrap up today. I want to thank you all for the love and support. Please like this video. Please share this video with your friends. I would be truly grateful if you did that. And please post a comment later. I go back and do my best to read all the comments. All right, we're going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.